Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Toon deck profile. So I'm really excited for you guys because this deck is a really awesome nostalgic deck that summons out all sorts of really cool old school boss monsters, but in Toon form. This deck is really fun to be able to play because it can actually OTK your opponent super easy because all of your Toon monsters can attack your opponent directly, which is a crazy thing that this deck can do. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron, along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Toon Blackluster Soldier. This card is a crazy powerful boss monster for the deck that has the ability it cannot be normal summoned or set. It must first be special summoned from your hand by tributing Toon monsters from your hand or field whose total level equal 8 or more, which is super easy to do in this deck. And then while you control Toon World and your opponent controls no Toon monsters, this card can attack directly. And then once per turn, if you control Toon World, you can target one card on the field and banish it. But this card cannot attack the turn you activate this effect. This card is crazy powerful in this deck to be able to summon out and super easy to summon. We then play 3 copies of Toon Dark Magician. Toon Dark Magician is a crazy powerful card in this deck as well, because this card has the ability it can't attack the turn it's summoned, and then while you control Toon World and your opponent controls no Toons, this card can attack your opponent directly, but it has 2 really awesome effects that once per turn you can discard a Toon card or a Manga Rerun, which we don't play in the deck, and then activate one of these effects to special summon out a Toon monster from your deck, except another copy of this card, ignoring its summoning conditions, or add a Toon spell or trap from your deck to your hand. That is absolutely an insane effect, because if you can get this card out on your side of the field, you can just bypass the effect of your Toon Blackluster Soldier and get it out on your side of the field with the effect of your Toon Dark Magician. We then play 2 copies of Red Eyes Toon Dragon. Red Eyes Toon Dragon is a really neat card in the deck because it has the ability it can't attack the turn it's summoned, and then while you control Toon World and your opponent does not control Toon monster, this card can attack your opponent directly. But it has a really awesome on-field effect that once per turn you can special summon any Toon monster from your hand except another copy of this card, ignoring its summoning conditions. That is a really powerful effect that you can get a copy of your Toon Dark Magician out on the field, use its effect, discard a Toon, and then special summon out a copy of Toon Blackluster Soldier from your deck, which gives you all 3 of these monsters off of just your copy of Red Eyes Toon Dragon. We then play 3 copies of Toon Harpy Lady. Toon Harpy Lady is a really neat level 4 monster for the deck that can attack or can't attack the turn it's summoned, and if you control Toon World, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then, if you control another Toon monster, you can destroy a spell or trap that your opponent controls, which is a really good effect to be able to pop spells and traps on the field. This card can also attack your opponent directly if they don't control a Toon monster and you control Toon World. We then play 2 copies of Toon Mermaid. I've bumped this card down to 2 from the previous list. It's really good in this deck to be able to special summon out to your side of the field with both of these to be able to make a copy of Bahamut Shark and then bring out your Totally Awesome to give you an additional negate. But with some of the other tech cards that I'm playing in the deck, I've bumped this card down to 2 because it's so searchable in this deck. We then play 3 copies of the Black Stone of Legend. This card is super good in the deck because you can use this card to tribute on your side of the field to special summon out Red Eyes Toon Dragon to your side of the field, which is a really good effect to be able to just get your Red Eyes Toon Dragon on the field as quickly as possible. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is just really good to stop the opponent from touching the deck while you're going in for your plays, so you can OTK even faster. We then play 2 copies of Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler is really good to negate monster effects in this deck, which is just really good for this deck to be able to slow the opponent down. And finally, for the last 2 monsters, we're playing 2 copies of Gandarla, the Mystery Dust Kaiju. This card is insane in the deck and hilarious because you can use this card to tribute over an opponent's boss monster, and then you can use Comic Hand to take it back. It's kind of one of those, here, you can have this, oh wait, psych, I take it back. And then you can attack your opponent directly with it because Toon, or your Comic Hand turns it into a Toon monster. So you can basically get rid of an opponent's boss monster, summoning this, take it back, and then swing directly for 27. That's really powerful and really funny in this deck. I love this card, and it's just super fun to be able to play. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. Also, the really cool thing about this card is it's a win monster, so you can actually play it against Floowandereeze to out their barrier statue. So, for the spells, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Toon Kingdom. Toon Kingdom is a key card in the entire deck, because when this card is activated, you banish the top 3 cards of your deck face down. And this card's name becomes Toon World while on the field. It also has the ability your opponent cannot target Toon monsters that you control with card effects, and if your Toon monster you control would be destroyed by battle or a card effect, you can banish 1 card from the top of your deck face down for each monster that you're trying to protect, which is absolutely insane that you can summon out monsters that can attack directly that become unable to be destroyed by card effects, by battle, and they can't be targeted. That's a really insane effect and just super cool for this deck. We then play 3 copies of Toon Table of Contents. Toon Table of Contents is a really good searcher for the deck because it lets you add any Toon card from your deck to your hand, including itself, which is just really crazy. For 3 more searchers for the deck, we're going to play 3 copies of Toon Bookmark. Toon Bookmark is an insanely powerful searcher that lets you add a Toon World or a card that specifically mentions Toon World in its text from your deck to your hand. And also, it has the ability if a Toon World you control would be destroyed by card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead, which is a crazy awesome effect. You can basically use this card to protect your copies of Toon Kingdom. That is a really, really good effect. We then play 3 copies of Toon Page Flip, which is one of the most insane cards in the entire deck. And if you control Toon World, you can reveal 3 Toon monsters with different names in your deck. Your opponent randomly picks one of them and special summons to your field, ignoring its summoning condition, and then you shuffle the rest back in the deck. The target you're always going to pick off this card is Red Eyes, Dark Magician, and Blackluster Soldier, and any of the 3 is good to summon off this card. We then play 3 copies of Comic Hand. Comic Hand is hilarious in this deck. If you control Toon World, equip to an opponent's monster, take control of that opponent's monster, it's treated as a Toon, and if your opponent does not control a Toon, that monster can attack directly. That is really good to play with your copy of your Gandarla, because like I said, tribute over the opponent's boss monster, and then take it back with Comic Hand, and then attack for 27 to help you OTK. This card is great in the deck. You can even take boss monsters that can be targeted, which is really, really good. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance because we really don't need the extra deck all that much. So being able to banish 6 from our extra deck to be able to use this card to draw 2 more cards is really, really good because you don't summon from the extra deck all that much anyways. So this card comes in very, very handy. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. We don't play any traps in this build. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 2 copies of a number 11 Big Eye. I figured it would fit with the copies of Comic Hand because this card is pretty easy to make. Then once per turn, you can detach a material from this card, target a monster your opponent controls, and you just take control of it, which is really funny because with Comic Hand, you're already taking monsters, and then now with Big Eye, you're taking monsters, so your opponent's not going to be able to keep monsters on the field, which is really funny. But this card comes in very, very handy to be able to just take really powerful boss monsters, get them out of the way, and go in for game, while also getting rid of cards that your opponent might need to prevent you from attacking. But this card also comes in really handy, and it only has one downside, that this card can't attack the turn you activate this effect, but the monster you take can. We then play 3 copies of Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon. This card is insanely good in the deck because once you attack directly with your Toon monsters, your opponent's going to be pretty close to having no life points left, so you can just make this with any 2 level 7s that you have, and then your opponent, every single time they pretty much breathe, they're going to take 500 points of damage, because this card has the ability that it can't be destroyed by card effects while it has an XZ material, and then while this card has XZ material, each time your opponent activates a card or effect, inflict 500 points of damage to them. When it starts the game, they can only activate 16 effects with this card, with one of these on the field. If you have 2, they can only activate 8 effects before the game ends, which is really good. With all of your Toon monsters attacking directly, like a copy of BLS, it's going to drop it down significantly how many effects that they can actually activate. We then play 2 copies of Ice Beast Xerophine. This card is really neat in the deck because it has the ability that once per turn, you can detach a material from this card, negate the effects of all other face-up cards that your opponent controls, and then it has the ability that if you do, this card gains 300 attack for each face-up card currently on the field, except this card. This card is basically like a Dark Ruler No More, but you can still do damage with it, which is really, really cool. It also makes it absolutely huge. This card is easy to make because you basically just make it with 2 copies of your Harpy Lady to make this card, and then swing for however big you can get this card while negating all the cards that are face up that your opponent has. We then play 2 copies of number 60. Number 60 is really neat because it lets you either draw 2 and discard 1, bring back a monster from your graveyard, or double the attack of a monster. Now, doubling the attack of like a Toon, Blacklist, or Soldier brings it to 6,000 attack points. That is absolutely massive to be able to attack directly, which is the effect you're usually going to use on this card because it's the best one to be able to help you OTK. We then play 2 copies of Bahamut Shark. Bahamut Shark is really good because you just detach a material from this card, and then it lets you special summon out your copies of Totally Awesome, which are really actually totally awesome in this deck because it gives you a negate in this deck to be able to protect your cards. This card comes in extremely handy because it not only negates the card, but it also sets the card to your field, making it not go to the graveyard, which is really neat because your opponent's probably going to be playing something that they want to keep. We then play 2 copies of Double A Zeus. Double A Zeus is really good because we're playing all XZ monsters in this deck. Double A Zeus only comes out if your opponent gets rid of Toon World, and you need to make this card to be able to board wipe the field to get back control of the game. You don't summon it all that often, but it does come up every so often to be able to go in for game. Usually I make Flare Metal the most in this deck, so that's probably the most important XZ monster that you have, besides maybe Ice Beast Xeraphine, just to make sure that I can attack directly over my opponent's monsters. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a super fun deck to play. If you guys have never played Toons, you definitely should give this deck a try, especially with the kaijus in it. That is hilarious to be able to do, to be able to just tribute over an opponent's monster and then basically attack them with the monster that you took. I love that so much. It's a really cool tech card, and it's just super fun to be able to do. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and there soon come part of notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.